So TMD, now that we've spoken about why should we start with the right employer, what are the 5 things that I can expect from the right employer?
Obviously, if the first employer provides this right 5 expectations I'm going to talk about, if he provides this, he's a right first employer. Again, I want to reiterate the importance of the first job. The first job is this foundation of your career. It's an extension of education, because what you learned in education is very limited value. You're going to really learn work skills and life skills in the first job. So it's very, very important. So the first employer is your teacher. He's going to teach you how to work and deliver on the job. So with this basic understanding, we're going to talk about 5 things what the employer you can expect from him, and if he doesn't provide that, you have to examine whether he's the right employer. First, role induction. Every good employer knows that people cannot deliver until they understand the role inside out. It's called role clarity. Role clarity means there is a job role. From the role comes basically the task, activities, task and subtask. Unless you understand this entire gamut of all the tasks and subtasks, you will not be able to succeed on the role. So this is called clarity. So it's very important for the employer to provide you intense training, because it's not just casually half-a-day training, giving you a lecture. Very importantly, it's not enough to tell you what you should do in the job. That's not enough. The good employer must tell you how you will deliver each and every subtask. These are what we call critical subtasks. Obviously, there may be many subtasks, but the key subtasks are only 8 or 10 or 12 for each job role. These 10, 12 subtasks, he has to train you on how to do. If he's not training you, then I think there is a lacuna in the employer. Second is performance norms and expectation. Many employers normally come and tell you, they give you targets, but they don't explain to you what is performance mean, right? This is a big debate going on in the industry now. What do you mean by performance? The performance, there are 2 parts. One is called output. Output means if you're a salesman, how much turnover should you do? How much of business can you bring to the company? Or if you're an operating guy, how much of production that you do, output. But there are also indicators without the input side. So the performance norms today will have to have 2 components. How are you going to be measured on the output side? How are you going to be measured on the input side? The company has to explain to you. A good employer must explain the performance expectation. Many times companies give a document, but they don't explain. What does it mean? How the activity that you do, what I mentioned earlier, role induction activities, how are they connected with the key input and output? So if you don't understand, you don't know how to improve. The third thing which they will do is to set challenging but achievable targets. Now this is very important. Many of our employees go to the first job and they want to have a cushy time. They say the employer ignores you. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. You go to office, nobody cares. You're sitting in the corner, you're sitting in the computer, they're giving you. First, good employer sets challenging tasks for you and challenging targets. Please understand, at the early part of your career, you are the brightest and the best. Your energy levels are high, you want to prove yourself. So if you take stretch targets in the beginning, all subsequent targets becomes easy, right? So I always tell people, give the freshers the toughest jobs, because they need to get toughened up. They've been used to campus life, which is very easy and going. Now they're getting into a job. So set stretch targets. But the second half is also important. It must be achievable. You can't put somebody on a target which they cannot achieve. Please understand, if somebody gives you unachievable targets, they're demotivating you. It is extremely unfair of the employer to set unachievable targets and kill that employee's enthusiasm, right? I normally would say quit that employer who puts unrealistic, unachievable target. Now, of course, the question is, what do you mean by unachievable? Obviously, you have data on employees, how they are performing on the job. So when you set the target, you don't set the target for highest performer level. You set the performance at the median or slightly below the median as the first target. So people have to learn and come there and then go to the next higher level. Fourth one is about resources. It's not enough to do the first 3 things. You must provide whatever is required to execute the job, right? This is important. It's not excessive resources. It's only required resources. You may not get the you need computers, you might need a vehicle reimbursement, you need conveyance reimbursement, you need, when you're traveling, you must have enough money to stay in a decent hotel, right? You need sometime bandwidth for using your computer. You need sometime an office space where you can go there. And so these are basic resources a person should give, but keyword, remember, it's not fancy resources, but what you need. The fifth thing which you can expect from a good employer is opportunity to learn and make mistakes. I also spoke about it earlier. However much training they give you, however much resources they give you, however much support system they give you, you will make mistakes. It is impossible for anybody to get it right the first time. A good employer recognizes that the best way to learn is to make mistakes and learn. Right? But it's important to understand that mistakes does not include two categories, which is what we use when I look at my employees. First, you can't repeat mistakes. If you repeat a mistake, you're not learning. Second, you can't make blunders. A blunder is something a company expects you to behave in a certain way and you be completely out of context. Good example of a blunder is go to a customer premises or shout at a customer and lose your temper. Unacceptable. This is a blunder because many times very difficult to backtrack and recover the position if you really have a fight with a customer. But the employer must be very cognizant that you will have to do new things, you will do new things your way, and therefore you will make mistakes. All this is absolutely expected of a good employer.